Yep, I can see the camera.
It's working, it's working. Brilliant, well done.
Yep, we just need to send out a new link.
Okay.
I can see the stream and everything. I
Yeah.
just need the new sound.
Can you give that to people who are talking?
Thank you. Yeah.
For the talkers.
Okay.
That's for you, I believe.
Just this one.
Okay.
Just that arrow there if you want to move
Okay.
it forward. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Where are you putting this?
Do I hold?
Yeah, do your hand.
I didn't recognize you with your new hairdo.
Yeah, I'm starker.
I like it. It's cute. How are you doing? Good. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that.
You can just hold it if you want.
Okay, I'm not the smoke in that.
It's on the right. He's on Instagram.
Do see, obviously I don't know. I don't watch enough. Looks like a little, you know those little fur balls that you
Technical
used to get?
difficulties.
Like, yeah. It looks like one of those.
There we go.
Yeah, that would be cool too.
Okay, hello. Thank you so much for coming out. Honestly, when I found out the tube strike was going on, I thought it was going to be like 10 people. And we are live streaming as well. So this is fantastic. So it's you, and thank you so much for being brave and coming out and making it. This is fantastic. So welcome to the lovely Kainos offices. They will introduce themselves in just a minute or two. I'm Randy. I'm a consultant, a coach, a trainer, a podcaster, and I've got a community called CPO Circles that I'll tell you a bit more about. And Bex over there runs the female product lead. And we are delighted to welcome all of you and Kate and Martin here for this tonight. Kate happened to be in town for just a few days. So we are doing this tonight on the night of the tube strike.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I've picked really bad colors to do this with. I apologize. So just. Not accessible. Yeah, I know. It looked fine. Looked fine on my machine. I didn't test it under real world conditions. I apologize. So I'll read it really quickly. So CPO Circles is the evolution of a community that I've been running for the last couple of years. The job of a CPO as the most senior product person in an organization is different from that of everyone else. You get to a certain point in your career, what got you there was being really good at product, and all of a sudden you find out the job is about something else entirely. It's about helping to run a business. And you're the only person in the business with that specific job, so where do you go to talk to other people specifically about that? That's why I built this community. If you want to learn more about it, come talk to me afterwards. But it's things like we're talking about tonight that I find really interesting and want to help people get better at. Huge thank yous to Jana and Prodpad for drinks, for pizza that is coming later, and for David and the team here at Kainos. And David's going to talk about what's going on here at Kainos for just a moment.
Kim, also on the team, is here today. And for those who don't know, we have 3 business units at Kainos. You might have heard as in UK government, NHS, workplace services, and the product business unit at Webmaster. So really pleased to host this event, and we'll be around all day. And by the way, we'll just do that work. Thanks.
Thank you.
And David is their first ever chief product officer, because when they were government consultants, they didn't really need one, but now they actually do stuff. They build interesting stuff. So they brought in a product team. So yeah, very exciting to do this. I'm not going to make you read this. It's just basically, you're all lovely people. If you're not acting like a lovely person, we will ask you to leave. Please don't act like a not lovely person. You've all been lovely so far. If someone is not being lovely to you, please come talk to me. Thank you. Right, and Bex?
I don't normally do this. I mean, make other people do it. I'm told that the live stream is working.
Yay!
Not. That took a whole hour. Oh my god. So I'm the founder of Female Product Lead, which we set up about 3 or so years ago, and we have a really, really clear vision, which is to get to a point where product leadership is inclusive. And what we mean by that is all the intersections from gender, culture, and neurodiversity are able to feel like they're included in conversation, included in decision making, and that's really what it is. It's really simple. Are you able to click forward for me?
Yes.
You're driving. I'm so sorry. Oh, I could have done that.
That's okay. Done.
Do you so quickly? So what do? We do online and in-person events. This is the first time we've done a collaborative event.
Woohoo!
And it's so nice just working with different people. Brandy's also like an ally in our community. We've got allyship, really wanting to sort of figure out how to activate that a bit more. And Graham Reed, who some of you might know, who's Mr. Product Ops, is our sort of in-resident ally. We have a very active Slack community with over 800 members worldwide. We run mentoring, peer mentoring and support. And really importantly, we're not for profit. So we're currently a CIC, which is a community interest company. We will probably at some point become a CIO because that's going to unlock funding, people tell me. I don't know, we'll see. But what that means for our members is everything is free. So we're not a members club. We don't charge people to join. We don't charge people for content. We don't charge people for support or coaching or mentoring. And every event is free, which is something that we're really proud of. But that means that we have to beg, borrow and steal a lot. So we have a funding team, we have a content team, we have an automation team, we have a tech team that aren't here today. Thank you for laughing with me. So it's a really, really active community. We've grown massively over the last 3 years. I think last year we did about 26 events in total. So we tend to do an event in person a month. This month we do 2, but that's Randy's fault. And then we do at least 1 event or 2 events online as well. So we're really accessible to people no matter where they are in the world. And all our events are about clearing the path to that inclusive product leadership. So everything we do is about that. And apart from we do collaborative events that are more interesting. So just lastly, sorry because I've been holding the mic far too long, thanks Randy. These are a few events that are coming up. So I really want to plug next week. So this one might put you off in terms of I'm not into fertility or I'm past that point. I mean, I'm certainly past that point. But it's really about how do we set it up for the future generations? How do we clear the path for good, inclusive policies that really just serve the community of women? And there's so many people who are impacted by this. And the stats, I'm not going to lean on to that today, but they're really upsetting. It's not great. So this event is in collaboration with Fertility Matters at Work. It's been hosted by Made by Many, which is an incredibly cool venue. We've had a few events there before, so come along or pass that on to people if you can. Scan that QR code to follow us on Luma. We've got an amazing event in the Salesforce Tower on the 7th of May, which is of this amazing woman called Kaya from a company called Matriarch, and she is just phenomenal. Like, she just blew my socks off when I first met her. So that event is all about belonging and how you can discover how you can belong if you need to, and discover how to create an environment of belonging for people if you feel that that's something that is needed. And then we've also got another event with the lovely Catherine Duquette, who some of you might know is Ed Biden's wife. She is just, blow your socks off, incredible. She is so dynamic and so engaging. She does incredible workshops with us all the time. We did a few with her last year. And this one is about power. So it's about finding your power. So if you know anybody who could benefit from our event, please pass the message on and join either our community or some of us on Luma for all of our events. So with that, that's that.
Thank you. And I'll throw it back. It's been fantastic working with Bex and the female product lead on all this. So thank you, whether you discovered it through me, through her, through anything else in the community. We're really happy you're here because we wouldn't be doing this without all of you. So just quick timeline. Again, sorry about the colors. This is bad. So we're going to do... My brand color is kind of an orangey yellow, but it's, not projector friendly, I'm realizing. Right, so we're gonna do a fireside chat with Kate. We'll bring Martin over to do a bit of a Q&A. And if you got here early, you got a chance to grab one of Martin's books, which is fantastic because it's a brilliant book. Then we'll do some Q&A with all that. Pizza will be here, and then we will get out of here around 8:45-ish. There is a pub around the corner if anyone wants to stick around and brave the tube strike stuff. And that's about it. So without any further ado, Kate.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm going to give this to you.
Can I here? That
Yeah.
way we can look at each other.
Fantastic.
Yeah. How nice is that?
It's fine.
Do I need this and this?
That's for streaming, and that's.
Okay.
But can you all hear us without the mic?
Especially
then we
me,
don't need-
seriously.
I wasn't heard on the live stream at all, so you need to have a dongly mic.
There's just the lav.
Have
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
And then when you come down, I'll pass it back and forth with you. Okay, but then we don't need this, and I will just put it there and hope it doesn't.
Oh, it's not going to work.
It is.
I'm going to get my water. Hold on. Okay, let us begin.
Okay, so we talked about this the last couple of days about a
Right.
few things. So the theme tonight is there's a lot of disruption going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that because we've all been through, well, we're old. We've been through disruptions before.
Right.
What's so special about disruption now?
Well, okay, so before I talk about that, should I introduce myself?
Oh, yeah,
Because
that would be
I don't know
good.
everyone. So
Bad
I'm
host.
Kate. I have been in and around product for over 25 years now. And for the last, my last product leadership role full-time was in 2011. And since then I've been doing my own thing. And a lot of that was spent doing time consulting. It used to be called consulting, now it's called product coaching, right? So follow me with that. And I did consulting for startups, I did consulting for large global corporations. Before I did that, I worked at a company called moo.com, which was right across the street, which is an awesome place. And before that, I worked with Yahoo in Sunnyvale, and they brought me to London. So that's kind of the trajectory. I worked on a lot of digital transformations from probably about 2012 to 2017, kind of like when that was all getting going. And I noticed after a while that the conversations I was having with clients, especially at a senior leadership level, we'd start out with something maybe around measurement or OKRs or strategy or something like that. And it quickly became a conversation around something more human focused. You know, asking questions like, how do I motivate my team? How do I have a better relationship with my boss? Is this even what I want to be doing with my life? And they'd pose these questions to me as product coach or consultant, and I didn't feel quite equipped to answer those. I thought they were great questions, and I was really curious, but I couldn't answer them. So that's when I started training as a coach. So that was probably around 2017, and not to become one, but just I wanted to get the skills into my consulting toolkit. But I loved it. I loved everything about coaching. I loved the different approach that coaches have, that consultants work a different way. Consultants might help you figure out how to do something and make it happen. Coaches help you figure it out for yourself so you can do it. Anyway, so I went back and got accredited as an executive coach through Berkeley a while ago, and this is what I do. So I work with senior leaders and leadership teams. I do individual coaching, I do team coaching, I do organizational coaching, and it's really cool. And I live in France now, so I do this remotely for the most part, although there are times I come to London and try to cram everything into 4 days during a tube strike. So that's the background. That's kind of that. So that's the perspective I'm bringing. With executive coaching, I focus more on human skills, on things like how to deal with conflict, how to have those difficult conversations, how to motivate people, how to kind of be more true to yourself in many ways and bring that into your leadership. And I love that work. So, disruption, yeah,
Yes.
just a bit, right? The question was, why are we
So
having so much?
why is it different now?
Why
We've
is
been
it different?
disrupted. I mean,
So
we've
many
had
times.
we've had mobile, we've had Bitcoin, we've had crypto, we've had NFTs, we've had so many different things in the
Yeah.
last 10 years.
Well,
But
yeah.
why is this different?
And I even can go back. My very first product job was for a startup before the first internet bubble burst. So lots of disruptions, and a lot of folks here can probably relate to that type of disruption as well. I think the reason it's, from my perspective, it's so much more intense now is because the pace. You know, it's just so, with AI, it's so rapid. Every day there's new technologies that are coming out. There's new conversations around, you know, what should we be using and how should we be using it? And how does it impact me personally and my identity? And how does it impact my job and my team? And there's, you know, there's no playbook. There's no rule book for how this should work and how you should work with AI. And at the same time, there's incredible uncertainty, in case you haven't noticed, geopolitically, you know, in our markets and everything around us. So, you know, we combine these different levels and layers of disruption. And it's just, you know, it all comes together. It's all kind of creates a perfect storm, I guess you could say, of feeling like there's really no answers on what we're supposed to do. And feeling a lot of the work that a lot of the conversations I've been having with clients is this feeling of being off script. Like there's no playbook. There's not something definitely for me to reach back and to support me through this. So I think with that, it's just intensified layer upon layer.
So, okay, so off script, let's be specific about what that means, because we've all been there.
Right.
We've all been in places where we feel a little bit uncertain, but what's different about being off script?
So I want to be really honest when I talk about this idea of off script. So this is something that I've been noticing with my clients. It's often what brings clients to coaching, is feeling like they're in a moment or they're in a situation where everything they've learned, all their experiences, their capabilities, their behavioral patterns, at some point have started to feel kind of supremely inefficient for whatever is coming forward, whatever is laying in front of them. And I've started to think about it in terms of how to help clients through these kind of off-script moments, how to identify them, and how to kind of talk to them about different techniques and different ways that they can get back on track. They can kind of come back into a more structured way of being and living and move ahead. I'm thinking about this concept for a book in the next couple of years. It's not something that AI will be writing for me, so it's going to take some time. But I want to be really honest in that this is the first time I'm talking about it publicly. So I'm going to stumble, and the questions that you bring up will help me figure out what I'm talking about and thinking about as well. So thank you for playing along.
So when I deal with, well, I've been around long enough to have seen a lot of people go through this and do this before this. We've often called it imposter syndrome.
Right.
But I have a feeling you think it's something slightly different. So what is the difference?
So imposter syndrome, from my own personal experience and from working with clients through it and reading a bunch of research about it, is of course when those feelings, those times where we feel like we're a fraud, where we doubt ourselves, and we feel like we're kind of a moment away from being found out as a complete imposter. There's a lot of focus on our self-worth, right? So very real. And I think I saw some stat that said like 80% of us have experienced imposter syndrome at some point. And I'm like, the 20% must not have understood the question. It is quite universal. So when I think of off script isn't doubting you have the capabilities. Mm-hmm. It's knowing that an off script moment or a situation could be that you know you have the capabilities, but you've lost touch with them. There's a gap between what you know you're capable of and what you're actually doing. And it's because something has happened. Maybe there's been a trigger like you've lost a job, or you've gotten some negative feedback, or you're going through like a time of conflict at work and you don't know how to handle it. There's something that all the experiences you've had, all the capabilities, all the frameworks, all the tools suddenly just seem like they're not the right thing. And what I also see with imposter syndrome is that we it tends to encourage us to work more, right? To do more and to work harder. And I think with off-script situations, we often freeze because it's like, oh shit, like what do I do now? You know, how did I get here? It's kind of a gap between you and your identity, right? Like, you know, you're this person, but you're not acting it, and you're not quite sure what's gotten you to that moment or that situation.
Do you think this affects everybody equally, in that there's already things in place structurally that when an executive team, let's be frank, when they tend to look like me,
right,
and you don't look like me,
right,
you tend to think they have other issues that are going on. There are microaggressions, there are perceived things, some things that are genuine, some things that are perceived but affect you that way.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is more prevalent, or does it affect everyone equally, or is it?
So the interesting thing about off-script situations is that I think they're very common. Like, it's not, I'm working with a developmental editor to kind of help me think about how to write about it and talk about it a bit more. And she was kind of surprised when she's like, oh, I thought these were unique and rare. I'm like, no, this happens to everyone, right? But it's gonna hit us in different ways. You know, not everyone, and not every time we get a new job are we gonna be off script. Sometimes it might feel quite natural and quite normal and quite organic. Other times, it may not, right? So in situations, so yes, I think they happen to everyone. I think they happen at different moments, and that's because of our own personal experiences, our backgrounds, you know, the different things that we're bringing to that situation.
Fair. So what are the types of things, what are the skills, what are the habits, what are the things we need to start to develop to cope with this? Actually, let's step back. When this happens, how do you recognize that this is what's going on?
Yeah.
And start to orient yourself to say, ooh, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah. I think it's quite difficult, and it depends on the situation itself. But what I always come back to are the different coaching conversations I have, and especially in chemistry sessions, right? So those conversations where people come to you and they're like, I think I need coaching, but I don't know for sure. Here's what I've got going on. So sometimes there is there's enough awareness to know, like, something doesn't feel right, and I don't know why. I've been able to handle this in the past and I can't now, and I don't know why. So when there is that type of awareness, I think people can start to reach out. When there's not, and you do just kind of freeze, I think it's a gradual realization. You know, sometimes, you know, for example, if let me step back a second. I was working with a client yesterday who is the only woman on an all-male senior leadership team, and every level above her, it's all men, right? So it's quite an interesting environment for her to be in. And we were talking about, you know, some of the comments that she gets and some of the things that make her feel uncomfortable. And there was a gradual realization that what was really going on is she was changing her behaviors and her attitudes and her actions to try to fit in with that, instead of being true to her own, you know, to herself, and being more authentic and kind of leading with who she is. She was trying to fit in that situation. So what brought her to that point? Some coaching, but also like her taking a step back and doing a lot of like observing of what's happening around her and how she was responding to it. You know, so she's a self-aware person to begin with, so it was a little bit easier for her to start to notice that. So that's kind of one situation, but also, you know, sometimes I see like people in the CPO level who are stepping into that level for the first time, and they get feedback like, you're micromanaging, or you're getting involved in things you don't need to, and you're in the weeds. And a lot of times their off-script moment might be that they're holding on to things that they were really good at before, because it makes you feel comfortable, right? And they're at that moment where they know they need to move forward and they have the capability to do it and they got the job and everything, but yet they're being held back. So, and that realization with another client came from the feedback they were getting. So I think it's a little bit different for everyone. And there's probably not one trigger that's going to make people realize like, oh, that's what's going on. But I think it can be like some gradual realization or, sudden like, I get it now. I see what's happening.
I did an intense coaching course last week with a small group of people, and I'm not going to bore everyone about it. They'll glad to talk about it later. But the point is, it was a whole bunch of new skills that we were trying in a very interesting environment. And at any point, every day, one of us felt really uncomfortable and thought we had screwed something up. And it was a very safe place. So we were able to talk about it afterwards as we did a bit of a debrief about it and say, okay, yeah, I felt, and there was one day I felt completely lost. I didn't know what I was doing at all. And people kept saying, oh, I didn't notice that at all. But it was the same thing when other people expressed it to me. Everyone has these moments where like, I'm completely breaking this, but we were able to, somehow in the moment, what we projected was different.
Yeah.
So how bad is it to have these moments? Is it something you can't really recover from? Is it?
Oh, of course. I think everything's recoverable.
Yeah.
We can always, there's always a tomorrow for better or worse, I suppose. But yeah, there's always ways to recover. And I've described them as moments, but often it's not just a moment. It might be an ongoing situation, as I was mentioning. My client who's on this within the organization where she's the only female, and it took a long time for her to realize that her behaviors had changed and why she wasn't feeling good about being at work. The cool thing is getting to understand it and then being able to work through your behaviors and where this is all coming from so you can make a difference and do it differently next time. Mm-hmm. That's how we learn.
And are there specific habits or skills or coping mechanisms that you're thinking about right now that come into play when this happens? What should we be thinking about?
Well, initially it's a lot of noticing, right? It's taking a step back and noticing when you might be reacting a certain way and trying to kind of take note of what's happening and what are you feeling and maybe who's in the room and write down some details about the situation. There's a coaching tool I use a lot that's just called The Line. Mm-hmm. Has anybody heard of The Line? It's great. It's just called The Line, right? Typical, right? I really did, because I talk about it, reference it in talks. And
very Googleable.
Yeah, it's like The Line. And basically, it's a tool to help us quickly take a look at or understand like how we're leading. Mm-hmm. Okay, so above the line is considered very open and curious and optimistic and wanting to try new things and kind of leading from like a fresh perspective. Below the line is very defensive and feeling like we need to protect ourselves. It's like that survival mechanism kicks in. So one of the things as clients are trying to take note and understand like what their behaviors are, and a lot of times they'll show up and feel like something's going wrong. I'm not happy with something. I don't know what it is. And this is a great kind of initial analysis tool. Just simply draw a line on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And as you go through the day, are you in a meeting where you're above the line or are you below the line? And what's happening in that moment? Are you in a conversation with somebody that you don't get along with? Why don't you get along with that person? It's kind of starting to notice. And then it's doing lots of noticing, lots of digesting. And then, of course, as product people, the next step is pretty, understandable. It's starting to build some experiments to try to change the behavior that you're seeing or you're noticing. What do you want to focus on? And doing very small steps. Mm-hmm. So that's some basic things. A good thing as product folks, we know all about experimentation. That's kind of a mindset that we have. So it's putting it to work in a different capacity, more on personal development.
Okay, I've got one more question before we bring Martin up and start to do a Q&A. And I know you've got a slide that we want to do as well. But very quickly, one of the things that came up last week and one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is when I work with people, as product people, we tend to do a lot up here. We're thinking about process, we're thinking about strategy, we're thinking about logic. But a lot of what you're talking about is in here. It's in the heart and the feels. And a lot of the coaching stuff that comes up is about working with people
Yeah.
On a more emotional level. But you kind of, I mean, we can help you with skills,
Right.
but so much more of it is about the emotion, the adoption, and the relationship. So how much of that comes into the moving people out of the head mindset and into the heart, or in the course, my coaching thing, they called it the strategic, the tactical, and the intimate.
Right.
And so moving into intimate is not always the best word,
personal.
but personal.
Yeah. So how much of
this, the off script, is up here, how much it is down here?
Kind of feeding
Different
off
line.
each other a little bit, but absolutely, as I said in the beginning, like, my work is on human skills and, helping people grow their self-awareness and helping people get better at having difficult conversations and building empathy and all of those really good things. So I'm all about the feels, and that's a lot of what we need to talk about in order to have a better understanding of actually what might be driving our off-script times, right? One other example, another client, we started working together because he's starting a new job, and he was a bit panicked on starting a new role. Not that he wasn't capable, not that he wasn't deserving of the job, but after a while what came out is that the job he left was a very bad, toxic environment, and the way he left was bad, right? So in that way, it was all about his off-script moment of, I don't know if I can do this new job. I don't feel equipped to do it, even though I got the skills, I got the experience, but it was getting in touch with what actually happened before, right? What actually happened with that last job, and how can he feel more comfortable and confident going in and being the CPO in this other organization. So they play off each other, but the human dynamics and the interpersonal dynamics, I think, it's all about that.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to move. So you had this slide.
So I have a favor. So have you been here? So these are some of the different areas that I'm thinking of focusing on, and I'm starting to write about. And they're all based on several conversations I've had with various clients over the years. So the first one is off-script moments that happen when you have a new role, where you're starting a new job. I got the job, so why do I feel like a fraud? That's kind of the off-script framing. The second is the feedback that landed wrong. I thought I was doing everything right, but then I get the feedback and, oh boy, am I not where I thought I was, leading to another kind of off-script experience. Another one about conflict. I've tried everything with this person and nothing works. There's no playbook. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. The team that isn't working, they're such good people. They're all so nice, Why aren't we moving forward? Why aren't we getting along? Why aren't we being productive? Also leading a transformation. I work with a lot of people that, of course, leading various types of transformations in organizations. And they're like, we're doing everything right. We followed all the guidance, all the guidebooks, all the consultants, but it's not working. And that's often because they or the leadership team got to transform themselves before they can transform an organization. That's the off-script kind of situation they find themselves in. A career reckoning. I don't know who I am if I'm not this. So connected to our work. Our identity is our work. And if for some reason we're thinking about moving away from that, that often creates kind of this off-script moment. So if you've had any of these experiences and would like to share a little bit about them, or you've had something else that you feel might fit this off-script framing, I would love to hear about it. This QR code will take you to a Google form where you can answer some questions about it, tell me about it, and let me know if you're up for having a conversation about it or not.
And for anyone on the live stream who can't get to the QR code, can they just get in touch with you through your website?
Oh, yeah. So website, my name, it's kateleto.com, completely descriptive. So please get in touch, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. Martin, do you mind coming down and joining us?
Where do we go?
Okay, so
Hi, Martin. How are
okay,
you?
so I'm gonna go back and forth with you on this, and we are live streaming this, so we're gonna open it up to questions. Oh, let's skip that one. We're gonna open it up to questions from the audience. By the way, we didn't even mention Kate already has a book out. It's really, really good. It's a few years old. Martin has a book out. It's also really, really good, and it's brand new. And some of you got it tonight, so yay. Where's it going? Okay, we are live streaming this. I will come over to you to ask if you have a question. You'll speak into the little fuzzy thing. I will hand it to Martin so he can help answer. If there's something you don't want on the live stream, just come and talk to them after. We're not going to turn off the stream just for the questions. But does anyone have a question that they would like to ask? Emily.
Emily.
So I have a relatively meta question after seeing your list of off script. It's like I've already forgotten the word. A bit of the why isn't something working? That then tonight I have realized I think I have worked with people who I think they're off script.
Yeah.
And for those of us who lead leaders, how do you coach someone who you think might be in one of these off-script moments, and how do you kind of like work with them to help get it all back together so that then your pieces start working as well?
You'll have to read my book.
Which you haven't written yet.
Just give me a year to come back to you on that one. So here's the thing, like coaching, if you're really coaching them on it, it's something they need to bring to you as well, right? So this is again a difference between coaching and mentoring or managing. You know, coaching is they've got to want to address it themselves. I think as their manager or as their leader or leader's leader, it's totally within your space to say, we've noticed this, and to provide the feedback. And it might be, you know, the challenge is making assumptions as to why it's happening. So that's where being very curious and asking, you know, using your coaching skills, asking a lot of open-ended questions and being really curious about what might be going on to help them start to kind of come to a kind of an awareness themselves and want to do more with it. So if it is true coaching, I think you have every right as the leader to give your feedback on it and then try to help them in that coaching manner. If it's more kind of performance review and improvement, then it's going to be a different stake, I suppose, a different angle.
I don't have much to add to that. I'd need to read the book as well.
I got two.
I think the big one though for me is as a leader of leaders, which I know you are, is thinking about that expectation management of the role. I think so many people who probably have their first leadership role, they still think it's about the doing and not the leading, right? And I think that is where I see a lot of this mismatch happening in the people I coach. And they still think they are the people who have to have the right answer, have to have the best answer in the room, be the smartest person in the room, solve the problem. When, as we know, leadership is about the people in our teams, not the solving of the problem. So I think a lot of it's just like expectation management and really helping people realize that that's what the role is about.
Any other questions?
Everybody just wants pizza
Okay,
now.
excellent. Yeah. I'm going to come over to this side again. And Nej will come over to you afterwards.
Hello. Hello, Kate. Hello,
Hi,
Mari.
Chris.
I guess I have a question around the word disruption and the meaning behind it.
Disruption.
So, yeah, disruption. I think 10 years ago, I was at a consultancy.
Right.
Maybe they call themselves product coaches now, I don't know.
Probably.
And disruption was seen as a more positive word, where you could bring a fresh perspective, be innovative, be a very different voice in the room that caused this kind of different creative thinking. I think in 10 years later, 2026, the compounding effect of a lot of change that we're going through and all dealing with together, disruptions, well, the question is, are you and your clients seeing disruption as a more negative thing or as an opportunity? And if it's the former, how do you help them to it become the latter?
Do you want to go first?
I'm not on mic yet. So
Oh, nice. Out.
oh no, I can go first then. I think the disruption we're seeing now, and I agree with Kate and Randy, right? I built my first website in '94, so I've been through the dot-com bust, boom and bust, mobile, everything else that came after it. And this one does feel different. I think the reason is, if we're being honest with ourselves, is because it's happening to us, right? Even 5 years ago when we were doing disruption, we were the cool kids in the room doing the cool thing, right? Now it's like, shit, it's coming for us now.
Are we not?
We're not as cool anymore, unless you're in AI and put AI in front of everything. Obviously, you're not cool enough. So I think that's one thing. It just feels very different now because it's actually coming for our day job. I am mostly, though, a tech optimist. I don't think I could do this job if I wasn't. So I actually think there's more opportunity in front of us than there is, things to fear. My PDoom does switch from like, the world is going to end tomorrow and everything's going to be fine on a daily basis. But I do think there's a lot more opportunity, at least in the short to medium term. I think we're going to see a software renaissance. I think there's so much more to be done. I think there is opportunity for positive disruption coming out of this, as long as we remember the humans behind it and we realize that it's happening to us now, and we have to think about how we make the most of that, just as we were, coaching people 5, 6, 10 years ago when we were the cool kids in the room. We have to think about that for ourselves. So I know there's a lot of fear out there, and I don't want to take away from that, but I do think there's more opportunity in the short to medium term than there's things to fear. It just is going to take a different mindset, and it is a bit scary at the moment.
Yes, I agree. What I would add is I remember being the cool kid saying, like, we're going to disrupt this industry. And like, you couldn't talk about a startup unless you could say it's going to disrupt X, right? So now when I hear disruption, I guess, especially in my coaching conversations, it is often viewed as a negative thing. So it's I love the way that you frame that. And it's mostly because it's disrupting my way of thinking, it's disrupting my way of working. And it's not just AI. Of course, it is often fueled by it, but AI is a trigger, right? It's disrupting how they're working with other people. It has become something that, it's interesting how that word has kind of changed tone and meaning. So how to get them, I honestly think it's just being talked about, or it's being used in a different way. Like, it used to be disrupting industries was like, that's how you get, all the investment that you're looking for by labeling yourself as a disruptor. And now it's like, it's the response to something that's really annoying you in life,
So do we let go of should people let go of that terminology as it being a positive, innovative, creative thing?
Disruption? I don't know, do we have control over that? Should people let go of it? Oh, am I supposed to be using something?
I'm just going to point the word disruption that we use, sometimes Clayton Christensen, when he originally used it, he used acceleration rather than disruption. And sometimes it's disruptive when it happens to you. When it's happening to everyone around you, or you're doing it to them, it's acceleration. So transformation. Yeah. So it's sometimes it's a matter of perception and being conscious of which side of it are you on.
I would love to see disruption in a positive light again. Because, yeah, it does trigger a lot of innovation and excitement and empowerment, really.
I think semantic battles tend to be hard to fight, right?
Yeah.
I have for about 20 years thought we shouldn't be called product managers, but I gave up on that one very early. I'm not sure it's worth fighting for disruption. I think let's use a positive options instead. Maybe we should talk about innovation. Maybe we should talk about, even that's just a much more positive one, right? Transformation can be more positive. I do think disruption has a very real human cost. Even when we have disrupted other industries, even when those cool startups did it, like, it had a very real human cost. It just wasn't happening as fast. So economies could actually keep up with that kind of pace of change. I think what's happening now has the risk of happening that much faster and more scary.
Yeah.
And so I think, I don't know whether we should fight for disruption. It's always been a bit of a winner takes all kind of word as well. So maybe we should find new, more positive ways to frame it instead.
I think you should use it the way that you'd like to, and let's see how it goes. Report
100%.
back, please. Yeah.
Ines, you had a question?
Hi. Kate, you write extensively or a fair bit about burnout.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this off-script idea came from a little bit from that exploration and chatting with people. That's the first question.
Okay.
And then where do you draw the line between what you do and what a therapist would do?
Yeah. Okay. Both good questions. And Randy and other other coaches in the room can help answer that. Okay. Burnout. I'm so glad you mentioned it, because one of the things I was going to say. Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things in pizza in a moment, one of the things I was going to say is what off script is not. I tried to describe what it is, but what it is not. It is not it's not kind of chronic anxiety or a mental illness. It is not burnout. I think they're very separate. I think burnout could be a symptom of something off script, but I treat them as separate. I think burnout is actually, it's medically described condition. It is something that I think can come from being off script, but I treat them as separate things.
I think it can be the consequence of off script, right?
Yeah,
I think
exactly. Yeah.
As someone who has very recently been quite burned out and been lucky enough to be able to take time off, I think it definitely did come from that kind of off script moment or feeling.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just like, I also think imposter syndrome in a way is kind of can be a result or a symptom of, look at it coming together. Oh, the second question, sorry, therapy, the difference between therapy and coaching. Big difference. I'm not a therapist. I don't play one on TV. There are certain times when it's very clear in a conversation that a client needs to speak with a therapist and not with me. And we point that out when we talk about that. A lot of my clients also work with therapists at the same time as we do coaching, and sometimes we triangulate, which is great. Do you have anything to add, Martina? Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I will say that anytime I've had a relationship with someone and the conversation veered towards something that I was uncomfortable supporting them in, I asked, do you have somebody to talk to about this? And they've always said, yes, I'm working with a therapist on it. So generally, if someone is bringing that type of issue to someone like us, but the most important thing is if you are working with an executive product type coach, or you work in the space or are thinking of being in the space, being very conscious of what the line is and what the expectation is. Playing in that space when you're not qualified, I mean, we would never do it, but it's dangerous and it's just uncomfortable. So, yeah. We have a question from the live stream, and then I'll come back into the room in a moment, but Bex, I'll let you voice it for them.
No problem. So this, can you hear me? So this is saying, do sorry. I've only had one glass of wine. Oh, classic.
Are you feeling off script?
I am so, always, my entire life is off script. I can't say that word. Cohesivity?
Do cohesivity and strategic clarity come at the cost of innovation? And do they breed groupthink?
Thank you.
Cohesion, I think.
Cohesion, yeah, that's a better word.
might have been drinking too.
No, is the short answer. I think the longer answer is a whole argument I have for cohesion and strategic clarity in an organization is to give context for the innovation that we want to do. And so I find so many product teams don't have or aren't given that context, and then are given some level of empowerment, and they all just start running off in different directions. And that's only going faster with AI. So we're now running in the wrong direction at the speed of machines, which is really bad. And so that cohesion, that clarity is just there to set kind of direction, to set the big strategic bets that the organization is trying to make, and still empower their teams to figure out how to get there and how to innovate on the way there. So I find when teams have that, they can actually move much faster and be more innovative and be more responsive to customers. Because they're not trying to do 10,000 things, they're trying to do 10 things or solve 10 problems or however you want to define it. So I think it actually drives more innovation and more speed from the companies that I've been working with.
I'll go with that. He wrote the book.
I'll just very quickly add, we talk about empowered teams a lot. Empowered teams doesn't mean you get your own way. It means that you understand what it is you're supposed to be working on and that there's alignment, not necessarily autonomy does not mean you get to decide everything for yourself.
Right.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Parveen. I'm also a leadership and a confidence coach. And just to add to what you said about the difference between therapy and coaching, the way I explain it to folks is I think therapy is very much helping you understand yourself. And then coaching helps you take action once you know you want to change the things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we are not therapists.
Yes.
Very different job.
Yeah.
But I had a question. I was wondering, in both of the work that you do, what is the hardest conversation you're having right now with your clients? Like, what is the biggest resistance to change? We know the change is here. It's being forced upon us. The change, it sounds like menopause. I'm talking about the tech stuff. But what is the hardest conversations you're having right now, and how are you handling that with your clients?
What's the hardest one? You want me to go first? Oh, okay.
Do you want me to go first?
I don't care. I'll go first. Okay. The hardest conversation I'm having with clients, they're all hard, so it's difficult for me. It's hard for me to say which is more complicated or harder to have. There is a lot of change going on that's impacting people personally and professionally and the people around them, and that hurts people, so there's a lot of things to work through. So I'm trying to think, just being able, I think a lot of it comes back to being able to keep in touch with yourself and your own identity with all of it swirling around you, and being able to stay true to who you are and your values, and despite a lot of panic and a lot of disruption. And so how do we handle that? It's different for every person. So as you well know, it's kind of hard to say, like, these are the 3 tools that you should go use. I wish I could. That would be great in a book. But it would be, I'll go back to what I talked about before. There's a lot of building self-awareness. I think self-awareness is the meta skill of like product management, or pretty much any career out there, is knowing yourself, knowing how you impact others, the impact that you're having on your community, on your workplace, on your relationships. That's like meta. So we do a lot in building self-awareness, and that comes back to noticing. It can come back to journaling. It can come back to having conversations with me as coach, or with a peer coach or something like that, to get it. I'm a big fan of getting it out of your head and sharing it somehow. That could be writing. One of my clients is awesome at writing, and I get these big, long things from her on a regular basis to kind of read through and that we dissect together. So it's finding what helps you get this into a more kind of on path or on script place again, right? And it's going to be different for everyone. So noticing, building self-awareness, and then starting to identify the things that you want to change that are within your control. I think that's another thing right now, that we feel like there is so much outside of our control, but we should be able to influence it. And it's just not possible, right? The only thing we really control is ourselves, our behaviors, our actions, our emotions, our responses. We can influence some things, but there is so much like outside of that. If you've all heard of this sphere of influence as a coaching tool, that sphere of concern on the very outside, we have we can't do anything about it. So it's acknowledging those types of things too. And I could go on, but I'm going to pass it to you now.
I think there's a really interesting build on that, which is I think it's exactly the same thing for companies as for the individual. So knowing who you are as an organization, knowing what you're good at, knowing what your strengths are, and knowing what your focus is, I think is always what I end up coaching companies to come back to. I think everyone's getting so excited about like all the opportunities, or they're terrified by all the threats, and they're kind of running in circles a little bit, instead of always coming back to what do we do well and what has changed to let us do that in a different way, right? What is now possible that wasn't a year ago, a month ago, a week ago. And I think the more you have that conversation as an organization and come back to, oh yeah, no, we really understand this customer, or we understand this problem, or we understand this market, or we have this incredible pool of data. All these assumptions that we built on, they've changed, but we still have that core, and we can build something amazing on top of that. So I think it's the same thing, right? Or just that self-awareness as an organization and coming back to that core and building on that instead of reacting to everything going on around you. I think so often in the past we've had, I worked for an investment firm for many years, and so often startups get to hear, they're like, well, what if Google builds this, right? And now it's what if OpenAI builds this, or what if Anthropic? It's the same conversation, and they're not going to build everything, and you can't, run your life based on what they may or may not do. You still have to come back to the core of what you are doing better, and where you have, I think data now is a big conversation, but like where you have data or insight or market knowledge or consumer user knowledge that they don't have, and just playing your own game, right? But obviously questioning those assumptions and going back to the core and the heart of what you're doing, and doing it differently, but not necessarily running somebody else's race.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. I'm going to come over here, but we have beer, pizza, and stuff for afterwards, so please ask more questions. We'll let the people on the live stream who can't have the beer and pizza, unfortunately, go after this. But Mark, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, just to build on what you were saying before, because what would you advise people who have the self-awareness, but either, and I've seen this, maybe based on personal experience, where they either, there's a sense of resignation, they accept their fate and they're just like stuck, or they start overcompensating to make up for, whatever fears or anxieties they're feeling. And they might not have the luxury of getting coaching. Where could they start? So they have the self-awareness, but they don't know how to best take action.
Yeah, so there's another coaching tool that I write a lot about and I talk a lot about. It's related to the line. And it's called the drama triangle. Has anybody heard? A lot of, yeah. We all know and love the drama triangle. So the drama triangle was developed by a guy named Stephen Cartman, who is a psychologist, and in San Francisco in the 60s. So I can imagine he had a lot of fun. But he developed this tool to help his clients understand the stories they were telling themselves and to understand how it was impacting them and those around us. So in the drama triangle are three, what I call storylines or roles. One is the hero, which is the person who is often overcompensating, right? They want to save the day every single day, right? You've got a problem, you can't figure it out, you go see the hero, they're going to take care of you. Which seems awesome, right? Until you realize the hero is doing that because they want to take control, right? It's their way of maintaining control of the situation. It's going to happen their way, right? They'll take care of you and everything around you, and it'll be done just the way they want. So that's the hero. And then there's the victim, who it's the story we all have when we feel hopeless or helpless or stuck. I tried to get the data from engineering 3 times and nobody will respond to me. Dear hero, will you go get that for me? Will you help me figure out a way to do that? It's just when we feel like we can't get anything done and we're in that hopeless state. Then there's the villain. And these names, sometimes they're named different things. Like sometimes it's the persecutor, blah, blah, blah. But I go with villain, victim, and hero. The villain is, I call the chief finger pointer. It's the person who's going to blame everybody else and take no accountability for anything, right? And again, we've done this as well. And Cartman said that he called it the drama triangle because the drama is that we shift and change all the time, right? You can go up and down and all over the place in the drama triangle within a single meeting. You can go into a meeting feeling like the hero. I got this, I got the agenda, I know what we need to get done and how we're going to do it. Just everybody let me do it. And then halfway through feel like the victim because nobody's listening. And then you leave feeling like the villain because you're pointing fingers at everybody and saying, if you all would have just listened to me, we'd be fine, we would have accomplished everything we needed to. So then there's the drama triangle sits below the line, right? So it's very much defensive, protective, reactive positioning. So if you're working with somebody who's in these roles, number one, it's great to be able to pick them out and to be able to build your own awareness of it, right? So you can maybe start to see within meetings Once you start thinking about this, you're going to see it everywhere. See in meetings how people are behaving and what role they might be. There is something above the line. I talked about, that's open and curious, and sits the empowerment triangle. It's the happy side, right? It's instead of being the hero, you're a coach. You're going to ask questions. Instead of being a victim, you're going to be a curator. You're going to realize there's all sorts of possibilities. And instead of being the villain, you're going to be a challenger, where you're still going to call people out, but you're going to do it in a different way. And that lets everybody know that you're on the same side. So what I would encourage in that kind of situation, after my big diatribe and teaching moment, is to build some awareness yourself. Start to talk about the different kinds of moods, the different kinds of reactions that you're seeing, and start to model what a different above the line kind of response might be. Instead of feeling like I got to control everything, what would it be like to ask a question? What have you tried? How can I help, instead of taking things over, and so on. And we can go into more of that over a beer if you'd like. And I hope that answered some of the question. Yeah.
Only thing I would add is find peer groups, right? I think you know this, Mark, as a long-standing product tank organizer. And then if you can't get coaching, follow Kate and read what she says, because she has a lot of great tools, and you'll get a lot of help that way.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a couple of things. One last massive thank you to the team at Kainos, to Kim, to David, and to the entire company. Thank you. Thank you to Jana and Prodpad for the pizza and stuff. Do come and talk to her about stuff as well. Thank you to all of you for coming out during the tube strike.
Yay!
A massive thank you to Bex and the female product lead for streaming all this and co-sponsoring. Thank you to Kate for coming all the way from France. And for Martin for walking across the street. And thank you.
Thank you.
Last thing. If you are hiring and you want people to talk to you, please raise your hand now. Okay.
Oh.
If anyone is looking, somebody Inej raised her hand. This is something I learned to do at meetups. So yes, that is that. Sorry, live stream people, that you can't help you with that. And that is it for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There was one last thing. There is a pub. It's around the